everyone. This is the Apollonia Rockwell Show, and I have my good friend Skyler Schissler here. And I am so excited to get into this because our side conversations over the last couple weeks, we had our first podcast about, almost a month ago?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I feel that we touched a lot on your successes, and I was able to learn those things more in depth about you, but I want to actually ask you I have a whole new set of things to ask you since the last time we met.
Let's go.
So, for those of you, first of all, who haven't seen the last podcast, please listen to that last one. It was amazing with Skyler and Brian Green. It was amazing. But if you haven't seen those yet, I want to give you a little bit of a background. So Skyler has owned a few, actually multiple successful businesses. Skyler is he's a professional speaker, public speaker as well. And again, I don't want to just all focus in on the successes. I just have a lot of other things to ask you.
Absolutely.
So, well, what I first want to start with is yesterday's conversation. And actually, I mean, even before this podcast, It was funny what you told me, but, and I'm sure a lot of people come to you with these types of scenarios. So I call you yesterday, and I'm like, Skyler, I have a lot of things going on. I know we have honestly a podcast started, or we have a podcast scheduled for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I have XYZ challenges, meetings, things on my plate. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do a podcast tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't think that I'll be able to show up in the way that I need to show up. And what you told me and what I could already feel is a common theme with you, and it's more of, I feel that it's your mindset is toughen up.
But in a nice way.
In a nice way.
Okay, good.
It's
Let's
like
get that out
it's
there.
like no, and I think
Yeah.
whether you're a business owner, whether you're trying to pursue whatever that thing is, I think that in that pursuit, you're going to get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to face death. You're going to face obstacles in whatever that pursuit is.
Yeah.
And it was so good, or it was so refreshing to hear someone tell me, because this is what I needed to hear. I needed somebody to tell me to toughen up. And what you just told me before the podcast, which is still just like ingrained in my brain, is you said you're not getting picked on, like you're being picked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is your response when people come to you with, I'm trying to succeed with this, or I'm trying to achieve this, and this is in my way, I can't see past it? I mean, what is going through your, when I called you yesterday, like, what were your thoughts?
You know, Apollonia, thank you for having me on the podcast. It means a lot to have a platform where we can share our story. Mainly so that we can help other people learn from our mistakes and from our stories. What goes through my mind when I get phone calls where somebody goes, I've got an obstacle in my way.
Me yesterday, we can't do the podcast.
Right? And I've worked with thousands of people in business, thousands,
Mm-hmm.
and I get this phone call a lot. I just tell them, it tells me we're on the brink of something big.
That's the first thing you told me. You said, so I came to you,
Yeah.
it was, I don't know, noon yesterday. I'm like, I don't know if we can do the podcast tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. And you said, you paused, and you said, take a deep breath. And you said, do you feel that you're on the brink of something great? And I'm like, yeah, I really do. I feel that I feel like I'm more in tune with my purpose now than I ever have been. I feel that I'm more self-aware in this moment than I ever have been. I feel that there's a lot going for me. I'm like, why, Skyler? Like, why? And you're like, the devil's trying to attack you.
Yes.
And I was like, for so long, and what I've shared with, talking with Brian, and I have not looked at my life through those lenses in such a long time.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at obstacles in my life, and I haven't looked at challenges as the devil is trying to attack me. That's no coincidence. When you are feeling down or something's happening in your life and it's not going the way that you planned and intended it to be, that's no coincidence. The devil is trying to attack you. And I hadn't looked at it like that in such a long time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Duh.
Such a powerful mind shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
When I kind of gained that perspective was when last podcast we talked about a guy named Darren Walker.
Yeah.
You know, he's in New York. We grew up from completely different backgrounds, different lives, and when I was introduced to him, he had concepts that I'd never been exposed to, and he always said something that stuck with me, kind of like what stuck with you was, we all pray for strength, right?
Yes.
We pray for it.
Yes.
But
which I was yesterday. Yeah.
God fills your backpack that you're wearing full of weights. You are now weighed down, and you feel the pressure of that, doing those reps or walking that line or whatever it is, with pressure, with real hard labor, and we crack, we break. So if you're going to pray for strength, get ready to have some weights thrown on your back, because that's the only way you get strong, right? You don't get strong by doing the 20-pound bar at the gym. You got to keep stacking weight on. You got to break that muscle down. You are not being picked on. You've been chosen. You've been picked, right? And so when somebody calls me and they're like, you know, I really wanted to do X, Y, Z, but this obstacle is in my way. Whether it be a spouse, a friend, money, whatever, if there's something in the way, I know that you were destined to be great. Are you going to allow something mediocre, something minimal, be such a big giant in your life to take you out of the game that soon? Right?
Are you willing to let something take you out of the game?
Right. So we revert we revert back to the Bible, and when they talk about faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain, that's all you have. Think about it. It's all you have is you have faith. And one of my favorite songs right now is from Panic at the Disco. It's High Hopes for a Living, right? It's, you know, when people take my life and where I'm currently at, and they say, Skyler, you've accomplished so much in your life at the age of 34. How did that happen? And I would say, you know, what that song says. I would say, I had high hopes for a living. Like, that was my job, is to have high hopes and keep moving forward. And no matter what obstacle came on my way, I'm going to move that mountain.
Yeah.
I'm going to drill through it. I'm going to climb it. I'm going to stick dynamite in it. I'm going to blow it up. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I don't know what it's going to look like. And I never will know what it looks like. And right now, on this podcast, the devil is plotting and scheming against me, and he's going to bring the things that I love the most against me.
That's what you told me yesterday. And then what else did you tell me? What I'm looking for? What did you say? How did you say it? What the answer that I'm looking for is where I don't want to find it. Or
yeah, so David Goggins had said something on a podcast recently which made me actually want to read his book. And I just got done finishing that book. Amazing book, by the way. But what he said was, the answers you're looking for are in the places you don't want to look. They're in your closet. And so what I said earlier was, you have to go into that closet and look for the boogeyman. And you got to grab that SOB by the throat, and you got to choke him out. And you got to take over that boogeyman in your closet so that it's no longer a thing that you fear.
So how the viewers can apply this to their life. So how would that concept be put into real life? So if it's an actual fear, or if there's something, you know, how would you relate that? If something's going on in
do what you fear most, and the death of fear is imminent. Okay? And so you have to attack it. Anything that you fear, if you're watching this podcast, I know there's something you fear. I fear it too, and I battle this every single day. Make sure that you're running towards the problems rather than running away from the problems. Because what happens when we run away from problems? It gets bigger, and it gets bigger, and it gets bigger until the monster is so big, it's like King Kong, or it's like Godzilla running through your town, and it's smashing everything in your town, your life, because it's such a big problem. And if you would have just ran towards it, you know, those credit card bills. I was an avoider for so many years of my life. I hated watching, opening up the mail and sliding that thing open and looking at it and going, oh, there's another bill and I don't have the money right now. And then what would I do? I just pile it on the kitchen table. right?
I love what you just said. I was an avoider for such a long time.
Yeah.
And if you continue to avoid your problems, you are so right. They will do nothing but grow and eat at you and eventually end up destroying your life because you're then paralyzed by fear.
Right. Another thing is the truth will set you free, and the truth always will come out.
Yeah.
It may not come out now, right? You know, we just watched, Brian give an amazing podcast about drug addiction. There was only so long he could hold out and keep that from people.
Deny.
Until that monster got so big that everybody knew about it. So really, he didn't get to tell anybody on his terms.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He didn't get to squash that baby when it was a baby. He had to face Godzilla. Right?
Yeah.
And the reason why we are afraid to go after our problems is because we have so many Godzillas or the boogeymen in our closet. So, I've just, over the last 6 years, going in and out of so many obstacles, I've just learned that no more running from it. Just no more running from it.
What does that look like? Yeah.
Well, when my marriage was failing, I didn't take the victim approach anymore. I said no more being a victim, no more allowing myself to justify the reason why I'm where I'm at as an excuse to stay there, basically.
So in that situation, were you blaming everything on your spouse, where it was?
Yeah.
Is that how you would justify? Hey, I'm doing me.
Yeah.
You're doing. This is your fault, or is that what?
Yeah. Basically, I would say you just don't understand.
Okay.
My business is my business, so stay out of my business. That's what I used to say to my wife. Imagine being on the other end of that conversation. It's like, you don't matter, right?
That's what
she got. She got, you don't matter. And what I was saying was, you don't respect me. Well, there's a really good book if you're going through marital issues. Love and Respect is probably one of my favorite books. It'll teach you how men think and how women think and how those two can coexist and why we need both men and women to exist in a happy harmony versus, just two, when you have two alpha males come together, why they're butting is because there's a respect issue there.
Yeah.
Well, imagine if a female is not respecting on a man's side, or what if a woman does not feel loved or included or brought up to speed? So could you imagine my wife? So when she was wanting to divorce me, I want to say we were between 6 and 7 years of marriage. Okay. So we've been married for a long time. Could you imagine living for 6 years to have a husband that says, I earn all the money, it's my money, right? If my business is my business, so stay out of my business. I used to say some really messed up stuff. So when I really looked at my life and go, I created this. I created this. Now, does it take two to tango? Absolutely it does, and I understand that, right? So when I started looking at my life and going, I made all this mess.
When you started to own it and take the responsibility for what was going on in your life.
I'm famous as saying, whatever obstacle is in your way, that actually becomes the way, right? And so Ryan Holiday wrote a book called Obstacle is the Way, and it's based on Stoic principles of saying, like, there is a challenge in front of me, and that challenge actually becomes the path.
Wow.
Overcoming the challenge becomes a path. If you beat
Oh my
around
gosh,
it, you're never on the path.
No.
Right? And so the growth that happens gives you meaning. Right? So when you're sitting here, and let's just say, I'm going to take sales because right now I currently do a lot of sales. Okay? And I make a big goal for myself to say, all right, I'm going to enroll 100 new customers over the next 90 days, okay? That's a huge obstacle, right?
Yeah.
Most people will be like, how in the heck are you going to do that? Okay? I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to work with my team, I'm going to work with my family, I'm going to work with my friends, and
have a strategy.
we're going to work on that, right?
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to head it straight on. right? We're just gonna head it straight on. And
versus avoid.
right, instead of procrastinating and
avoid.
also, let's just get to it.
Yeah.
And it's scary, and making those phone calls and reaching out to people and seeing what my resources are, that's always gonna be uncomfortable. Right? There's always going to have a little bit of uncomfortable aspect of what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But see, when you are in that struggle, it is sometimes painful. It is sometimes
can't see the way
yeah,
out
you
or can't see the way through.
It's almost suffocating is where I was going to go. So you
Yeah.
definitely, led me on that. But it's suffocating to the point where you just want to get out of it. And you go, why did I take on this task? Why did I have to be an ambitious person? So now you're judging your character and you're questioning yourself. And this is what's got me into depressive states in my life, right?
Okay.
Is when I'm like, why can't I just be the guy who gets a 9 to 5? Why do I have to be this entrepreneur? Why do I have to go after lofty goals? Why can't I just get by with a Kia versus a Porsche? You know what I mean? Like, why can't I do that? Well, the reason why is because everything that I've done through all of those struggles, when I accomplish them, the meaning is more than just accomplishing a goal. It's building my character. It's stretching my comfort zone.
I was able to get through this.
Yes, there's so much in there, and the celebration is half the fun, right?
Yeah,
when you hit a lofty goal and you say, when we do this, we're getting a yacht down in Florida.
Yeah.
We're going to spend 3 days down. We're going to party on $1 million yacht, and we're not going to think about business. We're not going to talk about business. We're just going to enjoy life. We'll reset and we'll do it again. That's just as fun. But see, we partied because we had a purpose. My issue with people partying is they party on Friday night like they accomplished something.
Nothing.
You didn't accomplish shit. You got yourself in more debt,
Yeah.
and you got a mediocre paycheck, a JOB.
Yeah.
Just over broke. Pay you enough to keep coming back,
Yeah.
and pay you not enough, so you have to keep coming back,
Yes.
right? And so when I start thinking about this stuff, by the way, if you have a job, it's all good. I'm just saying, this is my mindset. This is what allowed me to break through, is go, I'm on this path because I need to become who I was destined to be.
When did you start making that shift? So when did you in your life what are those defining shifts, those memories, those moments that you could really feel that your life changed and led you to who you are today? What were those defining moments? Like, did you know? You, like in high school, in middle school, after that?
Yeah.
You've always been a big thinker?
Yeah, but I've always been kind of a big thinker. I've always felt like I was made different than most people.
Wow.
And I think we all feel that way. I think in some instance, if we interviewed 1,000 people, they would all say that.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
I thought that there was something that I had that was special, and
Right.
it wasn't until.
And here's the thing, we all are.
That's so true.
We're all different. Because if everybody was me, this world would not turn around.
Yeah.
It would never rotate.
Yeah.
Right? So we need everybody to make this world go round. So that thought process, once I understood that we are all different, that's when I stopped trying to be like everybody.
Wow.
And when I stopped trying to be like everybody, that's when I started to find answers to problems that I wanted to help solve.
When was that? Then? Because that's a huge defining moment.
When I failed my hockey career.
Oh, I forgot. We had a connection. My little brother, not Renegades. Was it Renegades?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were playing hockey, thought that you were going to take that career further, and it didn't happen.
I believe, and some of my old teammates might be watching this someday, and they might go, "You're full of shit, man." But I believed in my heart that I had everything it took to become a professional hockey player.
Okay.
That
was your life. Your family was in it.
Put
This
in
is what
the
you
time.
thought.
I learned the skills. I've played hockey with some of the best people on this planet. I was mentored by Mark Messier and his brother. I moved all over the country to play hockey. I did what it took. I became an outlier in the sport.
Okay.
But I know when I was working with the semi-pro teams, and I would show up in locker rooms, I wouldn't look at how do I add value to this situation, or what is my job or role in this locker room. It's me sizing up the guy across the locker room that I just met who's from New York, I'm from Colorado, and me going, God, I wish I was him.
That's where your mind was at.
Yeah, I wish I was taller. I wish I was built a little bigger like him. Man, I've heard about that guy. That guy can, make moves that I've never been able to accomplish. I wish I was him. And I didn't want to be me. And this is why I get choked up, because there were so many times, and we all have this, where we're in our own skin, and sometimes we just wish we weren't in our own skin.
Yeah.
We wish we
I think
could
so many people can relate to that.
Right? And so when I failed, it wasn't because I didn't put in the time, it wasn't because I wasn't good enough. It was because I was trying to be somebody else, and I wasn't grateful for who I was.
For such a long time, you felt that way.
Yeah.
So many people can relate to that. I think that there are a lot of people that are in that moment today where they don't feel simply enough, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to, is not feeling enough or not wanting to be anybody but yourself.
Absolutely. So while I was traveling across the country and people were, trying to strike deals for me to play for other teams, and they're trying to move me up a level and move me down a level, and I'm living from bus to bus and hotel room to hotel room, trying to make this career in hockey, which I tell people about it, but I don't tell people about it. Does that make sense?
Because
not only that, but I didn't go anywhere in my mind, right? I really didn't. Like, I was there, but I didn't go anywhere. And so I really had to look at myself and go, man, I've always gotten so close to the top of anything that I did.
Yeah.
And I was 19, 20 years old when I had this revelation, and I said, you know what, no more. Well, just no more working my butt off just to come up short.
No more wishing, no more hoping.
Yep.
I'm going to take control.
And then what I realized, it was self-sabotage. And what I also didn't realize was when I was 26, 27 years old, when I was faced with a divorce, I realized that I had created self-sabotage. And 2 years before that, I had created self-sabotage. I thought I was away from it, but I wasn't. So this was even a longer journey than I had thought, right? But when I was playing hockey, it was all about making people bigger giants than they actually were, so then I felt like I couldn't play alongside them. Okay. So there was a whole lot of just feeling inferior. Being 5'8", 180 pounds, trying to play at, the semi-pro level or even college level, is not that hard, but in my mind I thought it was hard.
So I like the words you just used, self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And how people get themselves in that situation without even knowing it. It's not until you boom, you're like, oh my gosh, I have self-destructed, or in a way that you don't know what's happening until you're there. But so talk a little bit more about that.
So self-sabotage usually happens because you consume yourself with a thought that you mainly fear about, and you actually bring it into existence.
Oh my gosh,
right?
That is so true.
It's super true.
What you when you're like, obviously, but like what you're focused on, that fear, those thoughts in your mind running through every single day will come to light.
So I've had some amazing mentors, and one hopefully doesn't mind me, telling everybody that I was mentored by him, but Don Hobart. It was one of my very first mentors. I didn't really choose him, he chose me. He saw something in me greater than I saw in myself. And when you have somebody who feels that way about you, it's a whole nother level of life, especially somebody with his merit, business experience, and overall success, right?
This first mentor, were you in a space that... Were you in an emotional, not an emotional state, but were you like, I need help? I was at a point where I could only, as a carpenter, I could only earn about $50,000, $60,000 a year. Okay.
And he knew that I was an up-and-coming carpenter. He knew that I had the skills to pay the bills, but I didn't know how to make money. What most people in business don't understand is the person that usually owns the company is not the best at business. They're really good at their craft. They're really good at their idea, but they're not good at putting the things to it, like money and schedule and negotiation. Like I was a really good carpenter, but I didn't know what a P&L was. I didn't know what profit and loss meant. I didn't even know what ROI meant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't even know how to judge a percentage, so I could make a profit.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that stuff.
You're just amazing at what you did.
So the way he challenged me was he had me bid on his personal house.
Oh, wow.
And he heard that I did a really good job on some cabinets for a friend. And he called me up and he said, hey, I heard you're a pretty good carpenter. I'd love for you to come and give me an estimate.
Okay.
I said, okay, cool. So I show up just like anybody else. At this time, I didn't know he was going to mentor me, and I don't think he knew at this time.
And how old are you at this time?
21-ish.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so few years out, almost 2 years out of my career. This is right before I proposed to my wife.
Okay.
This is a really crucial point where I've read books, I've looked at other people's lives, a local builder here in town and my mentor in carpentry as far as teaching me the skill. I saw their lives and I'm like, okay, I kind of want to go this direction, right? And so
you had a little bit of vision of where you wanted to go.
Where I want to go. I knew I wanted to be a business owner. Why did I want to be a business owner? Because my mom worked 3+ jobs just to get by as a single mom, and I just understood that you had to create a system or something that could outlast you or make more money than you. Because my mom was a perfect example of working hard.
Working her ass off. Working hard.
That's why I feel so strong about jobs and why I said that earlier. Is because I know some of the most amazing people that work hard, but they're not ahead, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I started asking myself, I would go, why does this guy get to go play golf and he gets to live in a bigger house than my mom?
Yeah.
Right? He barely works.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he owns the bank that she works at.
Yeah.
Right? He's leveraging her for her time, right? And so I just started really seeing this. And so when Don called me up and said, hey, let's do this, he let me fail. So, he let me fail on my estimate. He let me fail on my estimate, guys.
He knew he was going to mentor you.
He didn't know, but he was there. I mean, he saw an opportunity to teach me a lesson.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And to serve me later on in my life. Mm-hmm. When he didn't know how it was going to go, and neither did I, right? And we don't know how the story is going to unfold, but now I do because hindsight's 20/20, right? So I go in there and I bid it. I give him a $20,000 bid to redo all the trim work in his house and doors and his kitchen and countertops and tile and flooring. Like, it was a pretty good sized job, right?
Yeah.
He goes, are you sure this is what you need to make the job happen? I said,
I'm confident.
I'm good. He's like, okay, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And what's funny is he asked me all these questions.
Now that you're like looking back and knew where he was leading to.
I knew where he was leading to. Is I sold that job and he knew I wasn't going to make a profit. He knew I was barely going to make a wage on it. He knew it because he'd been in construction for 30+ years before this moment.
Sure.
So he could just look at the job and go, well, ballpark, I know you're going to be around here. He knew that I needed to be around $50,000 to do what he wanted to do, but I sold myself short.
He continued to let you?
Let me do it.
He let you, so you completed the job?
Yeah. No, I didn't. I came halfway to the job in tears.
And he knew it?
Yeah, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to finish the project. I'm all out of money, and I'm not making a dime, and I don't know how I'm going to pay the house payment, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
And he's like, I know.
Yeah, he goes, I knew. He goes, that's why I set aside more money. So this is where we should be. So if you're willing to learn how to properly bid this, and you're willing to learn and you come here every night for the next 2 weeks after you're done working, and I'll show you how to do this, if you're willing to do that, and you're willing to get your finances right, you're willing to do all these things, I'm willing to give you a chance and give you the money that you really needed to get this job done.
Were you like,
what?
I
mean, it was probably one of the craziest times of my life where I realized I really got a second chance. Because he could have just screwed it down and said, well, you did a deal, here's the signed paperwork.
Yeah.
And that's when I trusted that man with my life. Because here I am at $27,000 to do this project.
Yeah.
And he's gonna gift me another 20 grand to make it so I can make a wage, I can pay my house payment. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here like, wow, this guy trusted me when he shouldn't have, or actually he's not even trusting me, he's giving me a break.
Was it right then that you knew, that you realized the importance of mentors?
I realized.
Like, did you oh, this is what I need to be doing?
Well, that was the first time in my life that I was humbled to a point that I'd never been before. I was good at everything I ever did growing up, except for school. School was tough for me, but I was good at hacking my way through it, cheating my way through it, doing all those things. That was a moment in my life where all of the hacking and cheating and manipulating was found out. He was the first person to really find me out.
Okay, so he took you to another level, emotionally, skill-wise. You were like, okay, when I connect with people like this, who are willing to see something in me more than I see in myself, like you knew, okay, I need to do this moving forward.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, and he also exposed that I was a good carpenter, but I was a horrible businessman. Okay. And he also exposed that I knew nothing about business, and if I had this goal of becoming a large construction company, there were things I had to learn to make that possible, and with my current knowledge, there was no way that was going to happen, right? There was no way. And
how
so,
would you know?
because you don't know what you don't know. I was literally ignorance on fire for construction.
Wow.
Right? Which is good. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that are knowledge on ice, right? They know everything, but they're willing to just sit at home and go, oh yeah, I know that, I could do it whenever. Well, you're not serving anybody, or, yourself when it happens, right?
Yeah.
So, that was a defining moment for me.
I was going to say, so that was a huge defining moment.
That was when I, actually,
big.
that was the first time in my life, other than my parents or immediate family, or even my wife today, my girlfriend, fiance back then, where I had really experienced humanity at its finest in my first round of grace. Where somebody actually showed me grace. And so to this day, I try to make it so I show people grace. However, I will do it with a firm hand.
Yeah. I can tell, like I said, this theme about you is it's great, but it's a dash of tough love, and it's a dash of toughen up, and I think, this is just my personality style, I think that more people need that in their life. I think that more people friends, mentors, whatever, I think that more people need to be told, toughen up, get it together. And figure it out. And I'm here to help you do all those things. But when you I was like, whoa, yeah, duh. What am I thinking? Of course we're doing the podcast.
So let's go back to those obstacles. Let's go back to Don Hobart, and let's talk to that first obstacle that I had. You know what most people would have done in that situation? Instead of sit down at a guy's kitchen table and show my weakness,
they would have ran away.
They would have ran away so they could save face. But really what they would have done is they would have made an enemy for life.
Yes.
And I didn't know I was doing that. I had no other way. I was either going to run, or I was going to go to him and just be honest and hope that he understood.
That's facing your problems head on. That's kind of what we were talking about. Okay.
And because I chose the honest way, he knew my character was good enough that I had a foundation to build on.
He's like, he's worth it. He's worth. I think that's important. A lot of people might be thinking, well, how do I get a mentor? I've heard that a lot. Because I've also had a lot of mentors, not a lot, but I've had a few mentors in my life. And I've shared stories, and I'm excited, and then I've heard people say, well, how do I find a mentor?
Well, you keep working hard until the mentor shows up. And here's the reason why I want to say that. The teacher will appear when the student is ready. So sometimes you have to go through a few things
for your shell to be exposed or broken, or you have to be at a certain place. And that's when I believe Almighty, when I believe God will go, all right, you're at that spot, I'm going to inject somebody in your life that is going to take you to the next level. And you also have to understand, you might outgrow a mentor. I'm not saying I ever outgrew Don.
Yeah.
Because I teach people his teachings. His legacy is me. And my legacy is the words that he taught me, and it keeps going down the line. Right? So his knowledge will forever live in this world.
That's incredible. That's legacy. I think that the legacy word is tossed around a lot. I don't know if people really comprehend what it means and what it looks like, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's what legacy means and feels like, is teaching you a lesson that you, like you said, grace, like that was one of the, and like you're passing that on, and passing on the lessons that he taught you. So that's incredible. That's legacy.
He's a world changer. He changed my world, therefore changed the trajectory of my life. And when construction had ran its course and I decided that that was no longer going to be my path, and I was going to take on a new business endeavor, I realized that I had been prepared for what I'm currently doing, which is helping people create financial freedom. And I know that sounds cliche, but until you have your best friends walk across the stage in front of thousands, I'm talking tens to 15s of thousands of people giving them standing ovations for making incomes that people can't even fathom, and them looking you in the eye and go, because you knocked on my door, because you made a phone call, my life is forever changed. That was Don Hobart for me. And being able to be a part of that for other people's lives is Don's legacy.
What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of my son and my daughter looking up at me someday when I'm dead and gone, and them looking up to the stars and going, man, my dad was awesome. He did big things. He went for it. That's what I'm most proud of, that I'm on that path.
That building that person that your kids will be so proud of and look up to and aspire to be like.
Absolutely.
Can you share a little bit? You told me just a little bit the other day about an experience you had. You were on stage and you had the opportunity to speak and influence how many people?
There was right around 500 people in the room, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah,
no big deal. And what happened?
It was my son's birthday.
That day. Okay.
That day.
Were you okay?
So January 5th of this year is my son's birthday, and it was his 2-year birthday. And I got called up to speak, but it wasn't just any time to speak. It was with the CEO of a $1 billion company. And this group has asked me to speak with the owner of a $1 billion company and the president of a $1 billion company.
So this is a dream. This
Yes.
is one of your goals, probably one of your dreams, and it is coming, and it came to life.
Yeah.
So you took up, okay.
Yeah, it came to life. You're right on. And I can talk more about that as well. And I was heartbroken because I'm missing my son's birthday. I worked so hard at creating passive residual income so I could be a family man when I used to not be a family man. I used to be like, whatever, you're just here to support me and I'm just here to hit my goals, right? My business is my business, right?
Yeah,
that's old mentality.
That's the old mentality.
My new mentality is I want to bring everybody with. And if I could be a platform if I could be that wave that rolls in, that makes all boats rise with the tide, I want to be that guy, right?
Yeah.
And so that's also with being with my son and my daughter and my wife and my family, right? And I'm always working on that, by the way, because I'm a hard-charging red personality, okay? I used to be the stomp on your throat, win at all costs kind of guy, right? And so I wasn't able to be there. And
for your son's birthday.
For my son's birthday. But we had known that this was coming up, right?
Yeah.
So we'd scheduled a birthday party the next day and made it fun for him, and he's not going to know the difference. But I wanted to document that his Dad was making a sacrifice on that day with something that matters so much so that he could go live his dream. And so in front of everybody, before I got started with my speech, I pulled out my cell phone and I got the whole crowd to tell my son happy birthday. But before I did that, I said, when you're old enough to understand this message, I want you to watch this because I want you to know that your dad went for his goals. So someday the goals and dreams that you have, you will feel empowered to go do the same thing. I want to be an example for my son. I don't want to be a culmination of excuses why I didn't do what I was put to do on this earth, so that
I love that.
That becomes my legacy.
I love that.
And you know what my biggest pet peeve is when I meet somebody and they're so amazing and they bought into the excuses. They let that first obstacle take them out of the game.
I love that.
And that becomes generational. That becomes their legacy.
And mediocre becomes legacy. And now the reason why we have so many people in middle class is because it's okay to be middle class. It's okay to be in debt. It's okay to do this. It's okay. No,
It's okay to just get by.
It's not okay.
It's okay to just get by.
Right,
It's
not
okay that you didn't go for it because of excuse.
Because at the end of the day, the highs and lows that I've experienced on the 15-year journey of being an entrepreneur have grown me into a wealth of knowledge, wisdom, friendships. I mean, it's taxed friendships. It's taxed my marriage, right? But it's camaraderie. When I sit around the dinner table with my friends, or I sit around the dinner table with my wife, we have shit to talk about.
Yeah.
Because we've been through it. You remember that time when we had to eat beans out of the can because I lost $50,000 on a project and you hated me? Oh God, I hated you. I remember my wife being there and we laugh about it now because we made it. We made it out of that. But when we were in it, she wanted to run from me. I guarantee it.
Really?
How do I know? Because I saw it happen. I saw it unfold. There was about a 6-month window where we were split. Divorce paperwork was being filed. She was living with her mom. I was living, in the house that we had because, I was so prideful and said I'm never gonna live at my mom's house. I was a jerk. And that breakdown moment came from my mom just being real and honest. And so
That's how you got through that. That's because I want to know more.
or how I got through it was different. My mom is the one who highlighted the problem.
Okay, so then she was a little bit of how you got through it. You being more self-aware than ever during that time.
Yeah.
It was was that the foundation of getting through it?
Yeah. So let me go back to something really quick. I know we keep going back in these little flashbacks, kind of like Family Guy over here, right? Flashback, right?
That's how I feel.
Everything you fear, unless you conquer it, will show up in your life. We talked about that, right?
Yeah.
I had a fear of money. Okay?
Okay.
Why did I have a fear of money? I feared losing it.
Okay.
I held on to money so tight that I'd hold on to a dollar bill so tight that $100 would fly by, and I was gripping so hard I didn't even have a shot to grab the 100.
That's just how you were. That's just where your mindset was at.
Because I
okay.
was raised by a single mom, worked 3 jobs just to get by, and she gave me an amazing life. Don't get me wrong, but money was always an issue. It was always a topic of we don't have it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So what's in my mindset, right? Is
there's a scarcity. There's scarcity of money.
Right.
I have to hold on to it.
Right.
It can't be made.
Right.
It's not abundant.
Right.
I'm sure is kind of.
So in 2008 when the economy crashed, people will blame it on the economy. No, I blamed it on my personal economy of not taking my funds and my money and actually doing something with it.
I like that.
And I created the problem. And so when things got slow, I lost my house, I lost my truck, I lost my motorcycle, my boat. This life that I had was $500,000 in debt. And
you had your own business at this time?
Yeah, actually, this is 5 years after being mentored by Don.
Okay, yes.
Here's another learning lesson.
Because after Don, you start your own business.
Well, I was in my business, but he took it from $50,000 a year to, 400, 500, you know, I mean,
Yes.
like, we started getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
The economy crashes and you lose everything.
I lose everything,
Oh my God.
right? And I was $500,000 in debt. I had creditors calling. I had everything going. But here, I could go so deep into that story to the point where I was going to kill myself. When you have between 10 and 20 phone calls before 8 a.m. every day going, where's my money?
Mhm.
We're taking you to court.
Mhm.
You're losing your house. The sheriff is knocking on your door.
Mhm.
I mean, when you deal with that much pressure,
Stress.
it's so hard for you to just not want to just get out of
Yeah.
it, right? And there was a defining moment when my wife had a breakdown moment, and she had said, "Why can't you just be like my dad, who just got a good job and just went to work and provided for his family? Why can't you just be like everybody else?" That moment was when I pulled up my big boy pants and I said, "I'm not everybody else. I was made different.
Mhm.
This is my hockey career.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is me not knowing how to bid a project." So I called up Don.
Oh wow.
I called up some people. I called up my buddy Brian. There were other business owners. And I just said, "This is where I'm at." And he's like, "Cool, let's do it. Let's dig out of this." And Don was like, "Yep, we're going to do this." And we just got to work. And I worked harder than I had ever worked in my life.
That's another example of tying this all together, of running towards your fears, not away from them.
Right?
Because
I had to own it at some point.
you had to own it,
Whether
or
it's a-
you could have disappeared and been
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to deal
Right.
with this. And you could have blamed it on the
Yeah.
economy. You could have blamed every single person, all the
Yeah.
customers and everything. But what I'm hearing you say is that you were like, I'm not going to let this get me out of the game. The economy's crashing. This is my fault.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, it's my fault.
Yeah.
And I'm going to push through this, and I'm going to make it work.
Yep. So I liquidated everything.
Okay.
Got on Dave Ramsey's program for
Mhm.
Financial Peace University. Learned what zero net balancing was. So every dollar had a place where it was supposed to go. And I learned what life was really about, which is learning a skill to help you get to the next level. And those valleys and those plateaus aren't there to really take you out of the game. They're there so you can learn, so you can get to the next level.
Wow.
And so that work ethic and what we learned during that, and my wife being, she's gone through so much. She's an angel. Watching her go through all that and us just working and getting our finances together and short selling our house, not filing bankruptcy
Mhm.
at all. Living in a house out in the middle of the country where we revamped it. We found a way to do a 203K mod loan, which I don't know if you know what that means, but that means that I get a construction loan inside of a house loan.
Mhm.
And that made it so that we could refurbish a house we lived for 6 months in a 10 by 10 bedroom, while I took a 1920s house that was crappy.
Mhm.
It was mold ridden and all kinds of stuff, because this house we only bought for 50 grand.
Wow.
So $50,000 mortgage is nothing, right? And so we just went to work on it. My poor wife lived in a house in a 10 by 10 bedroom for 6 months without a bathroom, without a kitchen. I mean, she is a trooper,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I had to go backwards, right? But that was God not setting me back, He was setting me up, right? He was setting me up,
No, I love that.
right? And so what ended up happening?
Because it's the truth.
It is. You're not being set back, you're being set up, right? And so I'm revamping everything. Everything I learned during that process 2 years later was my first year in doing $1 million.
Because of all of the learning lessons, the financial lessons, the
Business.
business,
Yeah.
like I mean, that is, Skyler, I mean, that is so powerful. Because again, I just truly believe that so many people are facing some sort of challenge right now.
Absolutely.
Some sort of obstacle right now. And if you could just look at it, that this is not a setback, it's a set up, that'll give you that thing that you need to feel first thing in the morning to like get you up.
Yeah.
Like get you out of bed, go to the gym, whatever it is, but like having that mindset is so
Yeah.
powerful.
And you know what started all of that was my wife asking me to be like everybody else. And I was not okay with that. That was not in my DNA.
Yeah.
That was just not it. Like,
You just always knew.
I just knew that, but I just knew I had gifts to give the world. And every person listening to this podcast, you have a gift to give to this world.
What if someone's like, how do I even find my gift? I'm in a low valley, I'm going through it, I've never inspired anyone, and I haven't really done anything special in my life. Like, what's the first step for me? Like, what if somebody has those thoughts?
You know, I don't know if I have a clear-cut answer for that. I really don't. We're all on our own journey for bigger purpose. We're all part of a narrative, and I think it's for good, not for evil. I think evil takes us out of the game, right?
Evil takes us out of the game.
Oh, it does, and it's dressed up like, you know, Brian and I and you were talking about how the devil shows up in our life. He doesn't show up looking like a bank robber. He shows up in a nice business suit, slick back hair, with the deal of a life, right? A deal of a lifetime, right? And that's what he shows up like, okay? You know, when my wife and I were you know, on the brink of divorce, there was a woman who came into my life that I thought she was what God had sent me to get me through, and she was going to be the next person in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out was, she's a sweetheart, by the way. Don't ever want to demean her because she's amazing.
Just wasn't the one.
Well, no, it was the devil trying to take me off course of where I really needed to go.
Distract.
Yeah, and I had some really good friends who pointed that out, and it was one of the toughest times in my life, because it showed up looking like an angel. It showed up looking like comfort. It showed up looking like the answer, but it wasn't the answer.
No.
The answer was struggle. The answer was learning. The answer was accountability.
Yeah.
The answer wasn't run and start a new life.
Yeah. I have things that I need to work on with myself and my marriage, is what you were thinking.
One of the things that stuck with me was my ex-business partner, Wes. What's up, Wes? Love that dude. He had gone through a divorce. And he said something that stuck with me, and he told it to me a couple of years before I was on this path. And this is, by the way, this is when I was doing I was very successful in construction at this point. My wife is like, because I'm working 120 hours a week now, like I created another monster, right?
Yeah.
I'm very successful by most people's standards. So now I've got to figure out another challenge in my life, right? And so this is the head. This is the tip of the iceberg. We've climbed the whole thing. It's at climax. My wife says, we get back from a vacation, and she goes, I've got an apartment. I'm moving out next week. I'm done. And see you later. And what? We just had a great vacation. She goes, that was all just, it was just me just biting my tongue. Because it came to such a head. It was so hard for her to live in a house with me because I had a chip on my shoulder from coming down from $500,000 in debt to kicking ass, right? And then I got a chip on my shoulder.
So it was me. You were
right.
You were focused on your success
right.
and your accomplishments.
Right.
And I think a lot of us can get there.
Right.
And why I heard something interesting the other day that makes me think of this is a lot of the times we show our best self at work. Like our best self, our best, highest version of ourselves shows up at work.
Right.
And a lot of the times you show your worst self at home.
Yep.
And when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, how many people does that ring so true?
Everybody. Even to this day, I battle that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a speaker. I have to make sure that I'm doing the right things in public, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I also need to have integrity and do the right things at home.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Man, we're going off on so many
I
tangents.
know,
I'm getting to
I
the
can't,
purpose.
this is
I'm
so
getting to
good.
the purpose, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going through all of this, but Wes had said, what's made my marriage fail if I don't figure out, so he would take these, sabbaticals and not date anybody and go, I gotta figure out what made this happen so I don't carry it on to the next relationship. You gotta fix that ailment. If you don't, you just keep going from next relationship to next relationship, or business to business, or whatever it is, right? Hobby to hobby. They're all gonna hit a point and then it's gonna fail at that point.
Wow, I've never heard it like that.
But it's the truth. Like, think about it, right? If you start a business and you write it for 3 years and it fails because of cash flow,
Yeah.
guess what? Your next business you start will probably fail because of cash flow.
If you don't learn the skills
Yeah.
to fix that.
So instead of cutting and running and file bankruptcy and calling it quits,
Mhm.
you've got to figure out how to get cash flow, even if you're having to eat beans out of a can,
Yeah, yeah.
right? You just got to do it, right? So
You will
that
recreate that situation for yourself.
over and over and over until you finally accomplish it, right? So when he told me that, it just was ringing through my through my head. And then Brian invited me to a church function. This is the first time I really started looking at faith. I just remember going to a Passover meal and leaving there going like, wow, like this information is really cool. I had a Bible next to my bed, but I never read it. It was kind of like at a hotel, in the drawer,
Yeah.
except it was on a little nightstand. And when I came home, the Bible was on the ground. It was open face down, and I'm like, I haven't touched that thing in a long time. I haven't touched that thing ever, probably, except to
Yeah.
put it on that bookshelf.
Yeah.
And when I opened it, it was in Proverbs, and it says that something along the lines, and I have it actually saved, but
Wow.
it said something along the lines of you'll be found out. Every truth comes out.
Mhm.
You'll be found out. And what it found out was I was moving on with another woman. I had found out that I was just lying to people about how great my life was. There were so many things, and in that moment, it was just like, this book's right.
Mhm.
This book is right. I can't no more. Like, how can I have integrity in a business meeting when I don't have integrity at home?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That's so good.
And so my mom created I'm going to take ownership, and then I'm taking ownership, but I'm still kind of lying about my ownership,
Mhm.
right? And I'm hurting somebody along the way.
Mhm.
And this is a big head in my relationship. And, I'm just like, yeah, no more. Like, no more. I'm taking I'm just going to start living in more of a glass box. I'm going to take
Oh
the
my
curtains
gosh, I
down.
love how you said that.
Just going to
I
air
got
it all
an
out.
instant visual,
Yeah.
transparent.
Yep, just gonna start becoming transparent, telling people about my problems,
Yeah.
about how I'm gonna overcome them, and just watch me do that. And so I went to money-making conferences, and I started really just learning how can I invest my money to get my time back. And I just told my wife, don't leave me, I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And it was really rough. I mean, there was so much going on. And my wife, had left me. The reason why she had left me is because she had started a relationship with somebody else.
Okay.
And she wanted to get away so she could start her new life because she had feelings for somebody else.
Mhm.
The reason why is I put her through hell,
Mhm.
and I wasn't giving her a good life, so why should she stay?
Mhm.
And the other thing is every time I do come home, I treated her like an employee, not like my wife,
Mhm.
right? And I was just a jerk. I'm really even surprised we're still married to this day, thank God,
Mhm.
right? But it was because I finally started saying the right things to her of, I messed up. Like, this is the first time I admitted how fucked up my life was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not your fault that your life is fucked up. It's your fault if you keep it there and you let it stay fucked up.
Mhm. But the first step is being self-aware of where you're at.
Absolutely. And so it was messed up. I mean, it was bad. And that's when I started to get to work.
Okay.
And
Really quick, hang on right there. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back.